Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Purpose Gym Life Sports here for another video. So, I know I'm a little late, so this has been a couple of days, but I want to give my take on what Kobe Bryant said about Shaq, about his comment on winning 12 rings if Shaq was in shape, and how Shaq would have been the greatest of all time. So, actually, I watched that whole entire interview. I think it was on PHP. It's like an insurance company, but it was a great interview. I like watching Kobe interviews because Kobe's a very intellectual guy. He's very smart, and another thing I love about him is he's very blunt. He's honest and straight to the point. Like he does not care what people think. He's just gonna tell you really what it is. Like that's probably one of my favorite things. Why I think Kobe's probably I think underrated in terms of all time rankings because he just was straightforward. He was an assassin. He did what he wanted to do. So that's just Kobe for you. But the quote he said was, "Man, I wish Shaq was in the gym. I could have had 12,000 if he was in the gym." I'm paraphrasing it. I'm just trying to, uh, put it in simple terms for you guys because it's basically what he said. If Shaq was in the gym, not only would it be the greatest of all time, but I would have had 12 rings. So I think 12 rings is a bit much because Shaq was actually, I think, when he joined the Lakers in his late 20s. And then when he was winning the titles, I think it was in 28, 29, 30 ish. So 12 rings basically would have meant like nine more after that. I think they could have won maybe six or seven because of how if Shaq was in the gym and he was staying in shape instead of having to play his way into shape, which most NBA analysts say was a lot of times Shaq was coming into the season out of shape and he practiced and played his way throughout the season into shape. That's what he was doing. And Kobe was always in the offseason working out, training, working on his craft, doing what Kobe usually did. That's why there's all those videos on YouTube, all that stuff that talks about him probably the hardest worker of all time, which I agree with. Was he was always working on basketball. That because he was a basketball player. That's what he did. But Shaq in the offseason, because he was winning titles, he's a big megastar. What he was eating. He was eating a lot, and he was just having fun, living his best life. Because that's what Shaq did. I love Shaq because I think Shaq is not everybody's gonna be rich, but Shaq is really what people should be living by, living their best life, doing what they want to do. But like I said, not everybody has the same opportunities that Shaq has. But if you really want to be, if we're going to be philosophical, Shaq lives how everybody should live. He's always happy. He's funny, and he's just a person you want to be around. That's how everybody should be. But we're not talking philosophical. We're talking about NBA. Shaq is who we call the most dominant player of all time, the most dominating, the most unstoppable force. We don't call him the best of all time because there was a point when he was in his prime, even before he was in his prime, when he was really unstoppable as a young kid in the NBA. But once he got into, it was really, I think it was a couple years before he got to the Lakers when he really started. I think he stopped working out or just wasn't big on working out or into conditioning. To me, I think if Shaq was really more into conditioning and still pumping weights, because Shaq was big, he was muscular, but he had a lot of, yeah, okay, he had a lot of fat on him. Okay, I'm not even trying to be rude, but he did. So that's a lot of girth on top of the muscle. So that's why he's bullying people, moving people out the way in the paint. And then look, it's just really what it is. Shaq was a guy who really played a lot of times. I think Shaq played at 340 most of his career and late into his career because man, after those Orlando Magic days, you could see the difference in his body type. Where in Orlando he looked really in shape. Lakers days he was like huge. So and I watched another interview with Kobe and Shaq after the feud was over, which was like I think a couple years ago. Was Shaq said that I knew I had you, so I knew I didn't have to come into the season. And Kobe was like, "That's it," because Kobe always wanted Shaq working hard. That was always his main problem was that Shaq didn't work hard. It was that Kobe was working hard, staying in shape, doing everything, but Shaq didn't work hard. That was always Kobe's problem. I believe Kobe when he says, I could have had a lot more rings. If Shaq was in shape, Shaq could have been the greatest of all time because you could not stop Shaq. Imagine if Shaq was in shape running the floor. A lot of times when Kobe was, out on the floor getting fast break dunks, Shaq was on the other end, hands on his hips. I've seen a lot of game tape. Not a lot, but I've seen some game tape where Shaq, after getting a rebound, Kobe's outrunning the floor. If Shaq was able to run the floor, imagine how more dominant the Lakers would have been if he was at least 20 pounds lighter, because that's a lot of load off your legs when you're a big guy. So that's really the point. I don't like how these analysts are saying, Kobe shouldn't be saying things like that. Kobe, if that was actually true, then he wouldn't have his own titles. Kobe was about winning. That's what these guys like. It seems like they're forgetting that. I think Kobe would have been okay with that and not always being the Finals MVP, which probably later in Shaq's years he would have been the Finals MVP with Kobe because Kobe was younger. People think Kobe was younger. As dominant as Shaq still would have been, Kobe's younger. He's probably going to take more of the scoring load off of Shaq. I mean, let's. I mean, can we stop tunnel vision, people? Jesus Christ. Anyway, Kobe Bryant was about winning titles and championships. Even later in his career, when he was a shell of himself, he wanted to win titles. That's probably why Dwight Howard got pushed out of town, because Kobe felt, as good as Dwight Howard is, you're not helping me win titles. Kobe Bryant was about winning titles. He wouldn't have cared if Shaq was always the Finals MVP, because guess what? He would have had more rings than Mike. And he probably still would have had MVPs. I think Kobe still would have had at least 2 MVPs if they had won 8 titles, because, like I said, Shaq was in his early 30s. He was aging. Still dominant, he was aging. That's why I say if he takes at least 20, maybe 25 pounds off, like Draymond Green did, because Draymond came into the season out of shape. He, at the end of the regular season, got in shape. That's why he was so dominant. If Shaq was doing that, but was doing it as the season was beginning, before the season, in training camp, Lakers, yeah, they definitely could have won at least 6, 7 titles, because that's how dominant Shaq was. But the weight off of him would have made him more durable, more able to fly around on the court. It is really not that hard to understand, people. And the fact to say that Kobe probably still would have regretted it, no, he wouldn't. Kobe was about winning. I don't know how I know that more than you guys who are on TV. Like, I'm not trying to shout anybody. I'm not trying to, roast anybody or trying to do all that, call people out. I'm just saying, it is not that hard of a concept. Kobe wanted to win. You're kind of taking his words out of context here. So, that's all I got to say about it. I 100% agree with Kobe. Kobe was about winning. Shaq actually came into the season with shape. Not only would have been the greatest of all time, because you couldn't stop Shaq then. Imagine if he was 20 pounds lighter, but was on his feet more, more muscular. Because once you're big like that, once that fat comes off, the muscle comes out. The muscle is going to come out of Shaq. So it's always a what if with Shaq, I think he is a top 10 player of all time. Maybe not top 5. I think Kobe's top 5. But Shaq, to me, I think he could have been a lot more. And that's just the what if with Shaq. But that's just my opinion on it. Let me guys know what you guys think in the comment section. Tell me what you guys' opinions are, because everybody's their own opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not going to say you're wrong, and I'm not going to say I'm right. That's just what I feel. So, thank you guys for watching this Purple Gym Live Sports, and I will see you guys in my next video.